This is an enrichment assignment. For this assignment, you'll need a blank piece of paper, a pencil, maybe a straight edge, and some shapes to trace. And I would suggest you do this outside, although you can use the video if you need to. So, what you're going to do on your blank piece of paper is you're going to make shapes. Random shapes, you can trace something, you can use a straight edge. And what I want you to have inside of these shapes is about 12 different little areas. I don't have 12 areas, I need to add a few more, but this would be one area, another second area, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe down here, seven over here, eight. Like you get the idea. You need 12 different little areas. What you're going to do is you're going to draw in those 12 areas 12 different native plants, 4 trees, 4 shrubs, and 4 others. I'm going to go through some different native plants on the video, and you'll see them in just a minute. And in each of the different sections, I'd like you to draw these different plants. Don't get scared off by drawing. I'm not an artist. I'll show you some of my work in just a minute, and I'll tell you that limiting the space to something really small gives me more confidence. It doesn't give me a whole blank piece of paper. But here are some ways to begin. Start by looking at the main shapes, a circle, an oval, a triangle. Then start to fill in those shapes a little bit more. Pencil in some details and some shadows, and then finish with details and shadows. Now, I'm not expecting this kind of thing. Here's what I did a couple years ago. You can see I had different shapes and I have different plants in these different shapes. They don't show up very well because it's pencil, but you see I have the plant either up close or maybe the plant from a far long ways away. Either is fine. It'd be nice if you had some variety, some plants up close and some plants away. I would like you to pay attention to the details of that plant and make sure you include the name of that plant. Again, you should have 12 different plants. 4 should be trees, 4 shrubs, and 4 others. The red alder has gray bark with white patches of lichens. The leaves alternate on the stem and they have wavy, toothed margins. They are nitrogen fixers and are often the first ones back in a disturbed area. The bark is used to make red or orange dye and has antibiotic properties. Black cottonwood leaves are shinier and smoother than the red alder. The back side of the leaves have a brown resin. The seeds are covered with fluffy white hairs. Soap and hair wash were made from the ashes of cottonwood. The bigleaf maple often has lots of mosses living in the branches. They have huge leaves, and they have 5 lobes on each leaf. The veins come to a central point, and that's called palmate. The fruits have wings in the shape of a V, and native peoples would often use the wood to make paddles. Western red cedar branches tend to droop slightly and turn up into a J shape. The bark often tears in long strips. The leaves are scale-like. The wood was used to make canoes and clothing. Douglas fir needles are flat with pointed tips. They have 1 groove on the upper surface and 2 white bands of stomata on the lower surface. The female cones have 3 forked prongs coming out of each little part, and the male cone on the left is shown. The western hemlock has a drooping crown, short needles of unequal length. The needles also have 2 whitish lines of stomata underneath. The bark was used to tan hides. This is also our state tree. The redwood species contains the largest and tallest trees in the world. These trees can live for thousands of years, but it's an endangered family due to habitat loss from fire ecology, suppression, logging, and air pollution. The western white pine is one of the pines we have in Washington. The needles come in bundles of 5. They're very long, 5 to 10 centimeters, as are the seed cones, also very large, 5 to 10 centimeters. A tea from the bark was used for stomach disorders. The beaked hazelnut has edible nuts, but it's too early in the season to see them. The leaves are alternate and oval with doubly saw-toothed edges. They are also incredibly soft, nature's toilet paper. The trailing blackberry has prostrate, trailing branches, light green to bluish in color. The leaves alternate and have 3 leaflets. This is our only native blackberry. Not to be confused with the Himalayan blackberry that has erect, stout, arching stems with 3 to 5 leaflets. The underside of the leaf is much lighter than the top. Tall Oregon grape have leaves like holly with 5 to 9 leaflets per leaf, glossy above. They have bright yellow flowers that turn to green and then blue, tart, edible berries. There's also a shorter version of this plant called the dull Oregon grape with 9 to 19 leaflets. Indian plum is one of the first plants to flower in the spring. The leaves have smooth edges with a cucumber smell when crushed. The fruits start off peach-colored and turn bluish-black. They are edible but bitter. Mock orange have small leaves with 3 veins. Their flowers are white with 4 petals and very aromatic. It smells amazing. The wood is strong and hard and never cracks or warps. The Nootka rose has large prickles at the base of each leaf. Don't confuse this with the bald hip rose that has numerous soft, straight prickles. These leaves alternate with 5 to 7 toothed leaflets. Chewed leaves were applied to bee stings. Ocean spray is a tall plant with coarsely toothed leaves. The flowers are white and tiny, but in lilac-like clusters. This plant looks like a crashing wave when in full bloom. The wood was used before nails were common because it is so strong. The Pacific rhododendron is our native variety of a rhododendron. It has alternate green, leathery, thick leaves. The flowers are pinked and have 5 lobes. This is Washington's state flower. Salal has variable height from ground level to 15 feet tall. The leaves are alternate, evergreen, and leathery. Flowers are whitish to pinkish. The fruits are red to purple and delicious. Salmon berries have twigs that zigzag with scattered prickles. The leaves have 3 leaflets, and if you bend the bottom part back, the other 2 look like a butterfly. The fruits are yellowish and like raspberries. Snowberry leaves are opposite and elliptical to oval. The flowers are pink and bell-shaped. They turn into white berries that last throughout the winter because nobody eats them. They taste really bad. The young leaves are lobed-like. Thimbleberry have maple-shaped leaves that are fuzzy on both sides. They have white flowers and their fruits are raspberry-like and red. Vine maple have maple-like leaves with 7 to 9 lobes. They are opposite and deciduous. The fruits are winged and almost in a straight line. The leaves turn fire engine red in the fall. Bracken ferns have large solitary fronds. The blades are triangular with the biggest ones at the base. Lady ferns come in clusters and the fronds get smaller at the base. They look like a diamond, and ladies love diamonds. The deer fern is medium-sized evergreen, and it comes in tufts. They have narrower leaflets than the sword fern. The sword fern is also evergreen and in tufts, but it's much larger, up to 4 feet tall. They have defined sori underneath their leaves and are often rubbed on one's skin after a sting. The licorice fern is small to medium-sized. It lives on the moss on deciduous trees. Its rhizome, root-like structure, tastes like licorice. The maidenhair fern is a delicate fern with purplish stiped stems. and a crown of leaflets. Douglas necker is an olive green, glossy moss, with often descending and forming hanging mats on trunks and branches of trees. It is irregularly branched. Oregon beaked moss is yellowish green. It's creeping and arched. Its leaves narrow to a sharp tip, and it often forms mats. Usnea is a type of lichen that's tufted to somewhat hanging. It's whitish, and it has a pale central cord shown when pulling the stem apart. It's said to have antibiotic properties. Hopefully, you learned some native plants during this time. Hopefully, you can be outside and enjoy nature. And I'd love to see what you got. Feel free to share it with me.